We're looking into The Lesser Devil by Christopher Ruocchio, 1.5 in the Sun Eater series, just after The Emperor of Silence. Overall, I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. A lot to like here. I am personally not a big fan of novellas. I usually find them not super interesting to read and just way too short to have anything of value. But there is definitely something of value here. I really definitely enjoyed this book. So you should read this if you want more backstory, more backlog into Crispin, which is Hadrian's brother. If you want more backstory into him and more depth, more development, and just a little bit more about the Marlowe family, more depth and more understanding and these kinds of things. I'm not sure if this sets up the books 2 through 7 because I haven't read them yet, but I have a feeling that getting some more depth into Crispin, this book definitely does that. So if that's something interesting to you, you should only read that, I think, if you want that. More depth into both the brother and maybe also the sister. Otherwise, yeah, not a whole lot of reason to read that because this is really just a book about Crispin, and I'm not sure if any of the other plot mechanics or plot developments will play into the other parts of the book, but for Crispin, I think there's probably a lot of relevance. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Ruocchio knows how to write a story. Ruocchio knows how to write, and this world that he's built is super interesting. So that's why I had no issue buying this book, buying a novella to learn more about this universe, because I knew that Ruocchio would not disappoint me and that I would find something of value for my dollar. So the plot, 3.5 out of 5 for me. And again, the plot follows Crispin and his sister, who are supposed to go meet with one of their relatives, and there seems to be something that goes wrong. And this going wrong, this is really a story about Crispin trying to overcome the shadow of his brother. I really liked this. Like, there were certain things about his brother that he always loved, and I liked this reminder that his brother always loved, Crispin loves his brother, kind of this reminder that actually he was really always looking up to him, and it was the shadow of this figure of his that was always being the point of tension between the two. Well, he always respected and valued him. And, I suppose in the first book, you're looking at him as almost kind of like a villainous figure. Like, I was thinking more of this arc that actually Crispin is going to be the one that maybe in the future is going to be grow into this leader of emulating his father. But I liked actually the kind of, in this book, it's not super that way. It's like Crispin's finding his own way, elements of his brother and elements of his father, and kind of ironing out his own way. So that was cool, and that development was interesting to read. And this was definitely an action-packed book compared to the first. A lot of action, and so it was satisfying. I think Ruocchio likes having parallels. So you had the parallel of the Marlowe way of doing things and this new religion, and this, again, the world building of the Chantry, I thought was definitely further enhanced here, which was cool. And yeah, so the plot was super interesting, super cool, action-packed. Some of the side characters had some development, and some new characters were introduced. Not a lot of depth to them, but considering it's a novella, you can't be blamed. For characters, again, I gave it 3.5 out of 5. I think there's just a couple of characters from the first book that don't get a whole lot of development, but there is a couple of reveals that, I wouldn't say reveals as in something super shocking, but some character moments of a couple side characters that were definitely very, very good. But some of the new characters introduced, which I don't foresee having any big impact in the future, I do think 3.5 just solid, a little above average, solid. And world building, I mean, that's easily the strongest aspect. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. Perhaps just this chantry, and I liked the juxtaposition of the Chantry and old Earth religions, and them kind of having tensions between each other and challenging each other. And I wonder if that will go more in further books, but that world building added a lot of value to me, and just the historical narrative of how Marlowe came into power, and the actual cost of that was very interesting. And so, like, everything having meaning, right? Like, Marlowe's they don't just come into power without any, consequences. Like, these decisions have consequences, and that addition of world building was super, super cool. For character, or for thought-provokingness, I think that was the weakest aspect. This was 2.5 out of 5. I think novellas can have a hard time having thought-provokingness, though I'm thinking of some short sci-fi stories, and maybe that's not the case really, but I mean more so novellas of like The Expanse, or novellas that are just adding more to a universe. This was definitely more just a action-packed character study or a character addition for Crispin, Hadrian's brother. So I'm not going to be thinking a lot about this book, but I'm curious to know if that will be different based on the future books. And I will be starting Howling Dark very, very soon. For prose and dialogue, I gave that 3.25 out of 5. I do think it was a bit of a step down compared to Emperor of Silence, in my opinion. I did feel a bit of a step down. The action sequences were well written, and I suppose with Crispin, the prose was very good, of that kind of inner dialogue of comparing to his brother, and it was sufficient. Like the book did what it had to do, but I guess compared to my I think if I had just read this book without reading the first book, this would be a little bit higher. But compared to Emperor of Silence, which I love the prose, I really love the descriptions of things and that intertwining with certain things, I thought this was a bit of a step down. And then fun was the second strongest category, 3.75 out of 5. Sorry, there's a car passing. 3.75 out of 5. That was, like, it was super entertaining to read. The action was well written. Action was fast paced. There was consequences for decision making. Consequences, certain side characters got their moments from which were relevant from the first book. It was a continuation. I got to see how Crispin has developed over his adult life. He's not the same teenage that Hadrian left, and that makes me very excited to see what happens in the second book, or if this book has any relevance. We'll see. So yeah, super enjoyable read. I would recommend that to people, fans of the series for sure. This novella does provide value to people. You get a good bang for your buck here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments.